Hello all, welcome to oratrainings.com. In this session, we'll discuss about data types and variables in Python. So let's get into the agenda. We'll try to understand what are the different data types which are available in Python. How do we declare a variable, as well as some of the samples with respect to data types, variables, if condition, and loops. So unlike another programming languages, when you declare a variable, we doesn't need to declare, we doesn't need to mention explicitly what is the data type and what is the variable name and then assign a value. There is nothing like that in the Python. You can just simply declare a variable and you can assign a value to it. So there is no explicit declaration for the variable at all. So another thing, there is no, it doesn't need to specify any data type at all. And for if at all, if you want to assign any string to a variable, you just need to you can mention them in a single quote or a double quote. Okay. And of course, variables are like whenever you have any variable name mentioned, they are case sensitive. Okay, so these are some of the important points when you need to consider when you declare a variable. Okay, so what are the data types which are available in Python? So similar to other programming languages, we have integer, float, string, boolean, and binary types like a byte array, memory view, and also we have a list kind of things like list, tuple, range. These also things, these are the different things which are available in Python. Okay, so as of now we're just considering the simple data types. Maybe later on we'll try to consider some of the data types which are complex in functionality, but as of now we'll try to concentrate only on the number as well as string data types initially. So let us see some samples on the number data type first. Okay, so when you say number data type, it's nothing but a numeric value. So it can be an integer without any floating value, or it can be integer with a floating value. It can be a negative. It can have the negative value, or it can be a positive value, right? So these some of the values here, if you observe, like a line number 226, we have declared some set of variables like a p, q, r, s, t. So as I said to you, like we doesn't need to mention what is the data type of variable. We just mention the variable name is equal to and the value. That's it. So here also, for similarly for all the variables, we mention the variable name and value we mentioned. And here, if you observe, like from line number 7 to 11, what we are trying to do is we just want to print what is the data type of these variables. As we have not mentioned the data type, we just want to understand what exactly the data type Python is considering when you execute the program. Okay, let us see them. So I'll just clear the cache. Now I'll just type Python, and the sample name is numeric.py. And here, if you observe for the for the p and q, where the value was 100 and 203, it printed integer. And for the remaining all, where you have a floating value, okay, where you have the floating value, it printed float for them. Okay, so like in the number stuff, like whenever you want to consider, make sure that based on the value, it will just consider the data type internally, so that Python takes care of it internally. We doesn't need to explicitly mention. If you are coming from a background of Java, let us say if you need to declare any variable, we generally mention int a comma b like this and float f comma c like this, right? But in Python there is nothing like that. We doesn't need to consider any of these logics at all. Okay, now so coming to the string. So the first thing is, like when you want to declare any variable with a string, you have to mention either, you have to mention the value in a single quote or double quote. Okay, it doesn't matter, either of them will work. Okay, and other thing here, if you observe in the Java language, or maybe yeah, especially in the Java language, you can declare a variable with a string or a character, right? But in this particular Python, what exactly happens is you just need to mention whatever the thing which considered, that will be considered as array of characters. You don't have any special difference between a string and character in Python. Now here, if you observe the variable name which I consider as a name is equal to Python space pro is my value, and the print name, I'm just printing it. And here, if you observe in the line number 2, I mentioned the index which starts with 0 to 9. I mean to say, name is an array of characters which is having total 10 characters, and the index starts with 0. Index is starting with 0. So let us see that sample now. We'll discuss the total program one by one. So as of now, initially just start with the basic 3 lines of code now. Python. So here, if you observe, it just printed the name Python Pro. And after that, here, if you observe line number 5, what I was trying to print, I was trying to print the length of the name. Length, len is a function. Len is a function. You just need to pass the string, and it will print it. But here, what I've done is I'm converting the name. I'm converting the integer to string. Why? Because here the left side portion of the content is string. So if you don't like see, when you're trying to perform an addition, both of them should be in a string, right? So string, if the addition of a string, if you're trying to add two characters, it'll just simply concatenate. If you're trying to add two integers, it will add up the value. Okay, that's the difference between a string addition as well as a number addition. This right side length is length returns an integer, right? So it will not convert it automatically. We have to expressly convert it. So that's why I'm just typecasting to str, nothing but I'm converting this length, which is returning the value in the integer or a number, into string. And then what it is doing, it is just printing the value, right? Length of the string is 10. Okay, let us say if you want to print the first character, what you can do is just print off name of 0. Okay, now what it will print, it has to print p. It has to print p. Can you see? I just printed p. Now name is array of characters. Now there is one more function we want to consider, is slice. So slice, what it exactly it will do is it will just get the portion of the string based on the starting and ending index which we mentioned. As I said, the index starts with 0 and ends with the based on the length whatever you have it, right? So but basic thing is it starts with the index 0. Now in the slicing, what we have to do is we just need to mention the square brackets. You have to mention the starting index colon followed by ending index. Now in this case here, if you observe, print name of 0 colon 2. The starting index is 0, okay, followed by two characters, nothing but it has to print 0 and 1, nothing but p and y. It will print p and y. Okay, so 0 comma 2, nothing but p comma y, p and y. And if you just see 1 colon 2, nothing but it starts with 1 and ends with the position 2, right? So it just prints y. Similarly, if you see this one, 0 colon 5, nothing but starting index is 0 and the ending index is 5. Starting index is 0 and ending index is 5. So here if you observe, the ending index is ending at n. So whenever you mention the range, the ending index, what it'll do is it will not consider that ending index. Okay, just consider that one. For the starting index, it will just consider whatever you mentioned, but the ending index, it will not consider the ending index value. It will just print before the ending index. Okay, before the ending index value, it will print it. So that's how it works. Now in this case, it is printing the data from till the starting position 0 to 4. Okay, and similarly, if you mention like the 0 colon like this, what it will do is when you don't mention the ending index, it will just print till the end of that. And similarly, when you don't mention the starting, it will print from 0. If you don't mention anything, it will print everything. Okay, it doesn't matter what is the starting point, ending point. It just simply prints everything. And other sort of functionalities like case manipulation. What exactly case manipulation means? It just converts the data from the upper to lower or lower to upper. Can you see? So here data in lowercase, other one is data in uppercase. Okay, this data is in uppercase. And now other functionality, replace function. What exactly it is doing? Replace just search for the string which you provided in the initially and replace that particular string with this particular thing. So here if you observe what it was doing, the single p was replaced with the 4p's. Okay, other one, the split functionality. This is very important functionality. Generally, like during in the data structure or in the when you're getting the data files from the source, from the third party system, whenever you want to split the data, this is one of the easiest functionality to split the data into set of array variables. So here let us execute that. So in this one, what I'm doing, this is my data. This is string separated by comma, and each of the word is separated by comma. But I'm trying to split the data by using a particular delimiter based a particular value or a comma in this case. And then what it is doing, this data dot split, based on this particular separator based on this separator, it is splitting the data into set of strings. And this data array is having all those particular words. Right now here if you observe data, this like a data array of 0, it just printed this, right? Let us say if you try to mention the index as 1 and just save it and try to run it. Okay, now see. Okay, it printed space, right? Now let us say, or let me remove the space, then we'll get more clarity. Okay, now data array of 1. It is not printing. Yeah, sorry. It is printing, right? It is printing is. Similarly, let us say if I try to mention 3 and see what it has to print. It has to print string. Okay, it printed string. So this is how the split will work. We'll see two more samples. One is for the conditional logic, other one is the loops concept. Okay, so this conditional logic is very similar to another programming language. Only thing is here, if you observe, the syntax is a little bit different. And one more important thing in the Python is you don't have any special symbols for the block. Nothing but, let us say, when you have the loops or when you have the if conditional logic, it doesn't need to have any special symbol like a flower braces or parenthesis, which are available generally in C language or Java language. So only thing is indentation of a block. Okay, now here if you observe, my if block started here and it is ending here. That's it. So you just need to mention your condition followed by colon and then mention your string by indenting properly. And similarly for else if ELIF you have to mention ELIF you can mention the appropriate condition, again a colon, and then print the mention the business logic. And finally you can mention else, again colon, and mention your string, mention your particular business logic. Okay, so I just printed one more information like to just to understand how exactly this block concept is working here. Now let us say I just mentioned 210 and 100, right? So this first condition is getting satisfied. Okay, let us execute that. Python if else, right? So it printed x is greater than y, and also it printed the statement I am not in else block, right? Let us say I want to consider the else functionality. So nothing but I have to mention this as a less. So obviously the else should be printed, and see what happens now. Can you see? Now it is printing x is less than y. It printed I am in else block, and also finally it printed I'm not in else block. What I'm trying to tell you is, so till this part, these two lines are part of else block, but this is not part of else block. Okay, because the indentation matters. Now let us say if I just change it like this. Okay, now I want to mention it as 210 again, and just try to compile. Can you see? Now what it is happening? It is telling there is some issue with indentation. So make sure that the set of statements which you mentioned in your block should follow the appropriate indentation, else it will not work. Can you see? Now it just printed x is greater than y. Or let us say if I remove this indentation, what will happen is this print statement, line number 10, is not part of the if condition logic at all. It is independent of this if condition logic. Now just try again. Okay. So this is how the indentation works in the Python. As you don't have any separator for the blocks, you have to follow the indentation properly. Now coming to the final example, the loops. So there are two types of loops are there in Python. One is while loop, another one is for loop. While is quite simple, where you just need to have an entry condition, and you can increment the values. Like here, if you observe, I just have a variable called x is equal to 1, and whenever the value is less than 10, print the statement and increment it. Again, it's again works based on the indentation, and you have a colon here. The syntax is a little bit different compared to other programming languages, right? Now let's try to understand the while loop concept first. Python loops. Okay, so now this data like from 1 to 9, it was getting printed from the while loop. Now let us see the for loop concept. So for loop provides a good set of functionality. So we have a range functionality. It iterates the array. It iterates the list in a very easier manner compared to other things. It iterates, like the complex types in a very easier manner. Let us start with the first one. So here, if you observe, I have a list variable which is having three particular words or three particular sets. And now if I'm just trying to iterate, right, for x in fruits and print x. That's it. What happens is this x iterates this particular list, and it will read the list one by one automatically. It will iterate the list one by one automatically. It will increment automatically. It will come out of the for loop automatically. It doesn't need to explicitly mention anything here. And similarly, if you want to iterate the string also, it will work. Now here, if you observe, for x and banana, what is happening? It will print each character one by one. Can you see? BANA. It is just printing the character one by one. And finally, one more thing, like similar to other programming languages, whenever you go with the for loop, you always have the initial value incremental value as well as final value. Okay, so here also we can mention the starting stopping range as well as how much you want to increment. In some other programming languages, especially Java or maybe DBM, like a PL SQL, you cannot tell how much step you want to increment the for loop. But in this particular Python, you can mention how much you want to increment each step in the for loop also. That is an extra functionality in the for loop of Python. Okay, now in this example, what I'm trying to do is I just want to print only even numbers. I don't want to write any explicit if condition what we generally write in the C language or Java language. But here, if you observe, I just mentioned a range. The starting is 0 and the maximum index is 20, and I want to increment by 2 every time, right? And here, if you observe, again, I mentioned str of I. If I don't mention str of I, what happens? It will give a compilation issue, interpretation issue, or compilation issue, or runtime issue, I can say. Okay, again, you see, it just printed the value from 0 to 18. Okay, and now when, yeah, so this is how this for loop with the range works. Okay, so in the next session we'll discuss some other samples on the Python. Thank you.